Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe and turn on notifications. Lucas prided himself on his ability to predict outcomes. It was, after all, his profession. As a senior risk analyst for a multinational logistics firm, his days were spent scanning data sets for anomalies, identifying potential supply chain fractures, and neutralizing threats before they became problems. He applied this same rigorous methodology to his personal life. He believed that if the input variables were controlled, financial stability, a comfortable home, a consistent routine, the output would invariably be happiness. He had been married to Sophie for 3 years. To the outside observer, and indeed to Lucas himself for a long time, their union was a model of efficiency. Lucas provided the resources. Sophie managed the domestic sphere. Sophie, at 28, was a woman of delicate features and an artistic temperament that Lucas found charming, if occasionally impractical. She had chosen not to pursue a corporate career after their wedding. Lucas had encouraged this. He viewed her happiness as a key performance indicator of their marriage. If Sophie was content, the household ran smoothly, and his life remained uncluttered by emotional debris. The routine was solid. Breakfast at 7. Lucas departed at 7:30. He returned at 6. Dinner at 7. Leisure time until 10. Sleep. Repeat. The variable was introduced on a rainy Tuesday in October. Sophie stood in the kitchen, her hands wrapped around a mug of herbal tea, her eyes bright with a manic sort of energy that Lucas had not seen in several months. "I have decided to join a club," she announced. "The community center downtown offers aquatic aerobics and swimming laps 3 times a week. I think it would be good for me. You know, to get out of the house, get some exercise, meet people." Lucas processed the request. He scanned for risks. There were none. The cost was negligible. The health benefits were positive. "That sounds like a sensible allocation of your time," Lucas said. Smiling, he walked over and kissed her forehead. "I am glad you found something." Sophie beamed. "I already bought 2 new swimsuits. One black, one navy. I start this week. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. From 2 in the afternoon until 5. Lucas nodded. "Excellent. For the first 4 weeks. The new protocol functioned within acceptable parameters." Sophie would leave the house in the early afternoon. When Lucas returned home at 6, she would be there, hair damp, smelling faintly of chlorine and shower gel, skin flushed from exertion. She would recount stories about the instructor, or the elderly ladies who gossiped in the locker room. Lucas listened. He filed these anecdotes away as proof that the system was working. Sophie was engaged. The marriage was stable. The first deviation from the established pattern occurred on a Wednesday. Exactly 1 month and 2 days into the new regimen, a localized server failure at Lucas's office had rendered his work impossible to complete on site. At 2:30 in the afternoon, his department head dismissed the team early. Lucas drove home, anticipating a rare interval of solitude before Sophie returned from her swimming session at 5. He parked his sedan in the driveway. The house was silent. This was expected. Sophie was, according to the schedule, currently in the pool at the community center, 5 miles away. Lucas entered through the mudroom at the rear of the house. He began to unbutton his collar, his mind already shifting from work mode to relaxation mode. Then, his peripheral vision caught a disruption in the visual field. He stopped. Through the glass door of the utility room, he saw the drying rack. Hanging there, side by side, were the black swimsuit and the navy swimsuit. Lucas did not move. For a full minute, he stood perfectly still, his eyes fixed on the fabric. He was a man who understood the physics of evaporation. He stepped into the utility room and reached out, pinching the fabric of the black suit between his thumb and forefinger. Bone dry. Stiff. He touched the navy suit. Also dry. He leaned in, inhaling deeply. He expected the sharp, chemical tang of chlorine. Instead, the suit smelled of lavender meadow, the expensive fabric softener Sophie used for the bed linens. Lucas's mind began to race. Not with panic, but with a rapid, cold series of calculations. Hypothesis A, Sophie bought duplicate suits. Probability low. Hypothesis B, she forgot her gear and skipped the class today. Probability moderate. But if she was home, where was she? Her car was not in the garage. Hypothesis C, the data provided by Sophie regarding her location and activities was false. Probability high. Lucas checked the thermostat. It was set to 68 degrees. He checked the dust on the floor. He checked the trash can in the kitchen. Nothing else seemed out of place. He went to the living room, sat in his armchair, and waited. He did not turn on the television. He simply watched the clock on the mantelpiece. At 5:15, the garage door rumbled. Lucas heard the familiar sounds of the car engine cutting off, the door opening, the footsteps in the hall. Sophie entered the living room. Her hair was wet, plastered to her skull. She carried a gym bag. She smelled of soap. "Oh, Lucas." She jumped, clutching her chest. "You scared me. I didn't know you were home early." Lucas arranged his face into a mask of benign disinterest. "Server crash. I got back around 3. He watched her pupils. They dilated slightly. A microreaction of fear? Or surprise? 3, she echoed. Her voice half an octave higher than usual. "Oh. Nice. I just got back from the pool. God. Brenda was a nightmare today. She made us do laps for 40 minutes straight. I'm exhausted." She rubbed her arm, mimicking muscle fatigue. Lucas looked at her wet hair. Then he thought of the dry swimsuits in the utility room. "You look tired," Lucas said flatly. "Go get changed." "I will," she said, hurrying toward the stairs. "I'm going to take a long shower." Lucas waited until she was upstairs. Then he stood up. He walked to the gym bag she had dropped by the door. He unzipped it. Inside was a towel, slightly damp, and a bottle of water. No swimsuit. He zipped it back up. The conclusion was unavoidable. She was wetting her hair in a sink, or a shower somewhere else. Before coming home, she was manufacturing the scent of the gym. She was not swimming. Lucas went to the kitchen and began to chop vegetables for dinner. He felt a cold, hard knot form in his stomach. It wasn't heartbreak. Heartbreak was a chaotic, hot emotion. This was something else. This was the indignation of a man who realizes someone is feeding him corrupted data. For the next week, Lucas did not confront her. Confrontation without comprehensive evidence was a rookie mistake. It allowed the subject to fabricate new lies to cover the old ones. He needed a complete dossier. He observed her behavior with the scrutiny of a microscope. Observation 1, the phone. Sophie had developed a new habit of keeping her phone face down on every surface. When a notification chimed, she didn't check it immediately if Lucas was looking. Observation 2, the grooming. On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, Sophie spent 45 minutes in the bathroom before leaving. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, she spent 15. Observation 3, the verbal tick. She offered too much detail. Liars often overcompensate with unnecessary specifics to create an illusion of truth. On Friday evening, during a dinner of roasted chicken and green beans, Lucas decided to administer a stress test. He cut a piece of chicken with surgical precision. "I was looking at my schedule," he said, keeping his eyes on his fork. "I have some accrued vacation time. I was thinking, I might come watch you swim next Monday. It would be nice to see your progress." The reaction was instantaneous. Sophie dropped her fork. It clattered loudly against the ceramic plate. She reached for her water glass, her hand trembling visibly. "Oh, Lucas, no," she said, forcing a laugh that sounded like dry leaves crunching. "I mean, that's sweet, but no. I'm still terrible. I flail around like a drowning cat. It's embarrassing. Really. The policy. The center has a strict policy against spectators. Privacy reasons. You know, privacy reasons." "At a public community pool?" Lucas asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yes. Because of people taking photos. It's a safety thing." She took a long gulp of water, avoiding his gaze. Maybe in a few months. Understood, Lucas said. He chewed his chicken. We wouldn't want to violate policy. The lie was clumsy. Desperate. That night, Lucas lay awake. Sophie slept beside him. Lucas stared at the ceiling shadows. He felt a profound sense of detachment. The woman beside him was no longer his wife, she was a hostile actor within his perimeter. She was a security breach. The following Monday, Lucas initiated the active phase of his investigation. He told his office he had a dental emergency. He left the building at 1:30 in the afternoon. He drove his car to their neighborhood but did not park in his driveway. Instead, he parked 3 streets over. He adjusted the rearview mirror and waited. 1:45 p.m. Position established. 2:10 p.m. Subject vehicle exits the subdivision. Lucas waited for 2 cars to pass before pulling out. He kept a distance of 50 yards. He was calm. His pulse was steady. He was merely collecting data points. Sophie did not turn south toward the community center. She turned north. She drove for 20 minutes, leaving the manicured lawns of their suburb behind. She entered a district known for its older, rental properties. She turned onto a street lined with oak trees and pulled into the driveway of a small, weathered brick bungalow. Lucas watched Sophie exit her car. She did not knock. She did not ring the bell. She fished a key from her purse. A key Lucas had never seen. And unlocked the front door. She stepped inside as if she owned the place. Timestamp, 2:28 p.m. Lucas sat in his car. The engine ticked as it cooled. The silence of the car felt heavy. She had a key. That detail hurt more than the sex he imagined was happening. Sex was biological. A key was domestic. A key implied trust, routine, and a shared existence. She was playing house with someone else. During the hours she was supposed to be improving herself for their life. He waited. He documented. He took photos of the house, the address number, Sophie's car in the driveway. Timestamp, 4:35 p.m. The door opened. Sophie stepped out. She looked disheveled. She was checking her reflection in a compact mirror, fixing her hair, reapplying lipstick. She typed something on her phone, smiled at the screen, and got into her car. Lucas filmed it all. He waited until she drove away. He gave her a 5-minute head start. Then, he started his engine, but he did not follow her home. He turned off the ignition, stepped out of the car, and walked up the driveway of the brick bungalow. He stood on the porch. He took a breath, smoothed his tie, and knocked 3 times. Firm, authoritative. Footsteps. The lock clicked. The door opened. The man standing there was perhaps 30. Lucas recognized him instantly from old photo albums Sophie kept in a box in the attic. Subject, Jared. Relation, ex-boyfriend. Jared looked at Lucas. Recognition dawned slowly in his eyes, followed by a heavy, resigned sigh. He didn't look scared. He looked tired. "You must be Lucas," Jared said. He leaned against the doorframe. "I figured this would happen eventually. Sophie isn't exactly a mastermind." "Invite me in," Lucas said. It wasn't a question. Jared shrugged. "Sure. Why not? Welcome to the love nest." The interior was cramped. It smelled of stale beer and incense. Lucas stood in the center of the living room, refusing to sit on the worn-out sofa. "So," Lucas said, his voice devoid of inflection. "How long?" Jared sat down on the arm of the sofa and took a sip of beer. "Define how long. We never really stopped talking, man. But the physical stuff? 6 months. Since I moved back into this place." 6 months, Lucas repeated. "Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays? Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays," Jared corrected him. "She told me those are the days you're busiest at work." "And the swimming?" Jared laughed. A harsh, barking sound. "There is no swimming. She comes here. We hang out. We sleep together. She showers in my bathroom, wets her hair, puts on that perfume she thinks hides the smell of this place, and goes home to you." Lucas looked around the room. It was pathetic. It was a regression. "Why?" Lucas asked. Because she's bored, Lucas, Jared said. You're a great guy on paper. But you're, dry. Predictable. She feels alive here. Does she know you're telling me this? No, Jared said. But she'll find out. Honestly, I'm doing you a favor. I'm tired of sneaking around. If you know. It forces her hand. Lucas nodded slowly. You are right. It does force her hand. Lucas pulled out his phone. He showed Jared the video of Sophie leaving the house. I have documented everything. The divorce proceedings will be straightforward. Thank you for your cooperation. Jared looked unsettled by Lucas's lack of anger. Good luck, Jared, Lucas said, turning to the door. You are going to need it. She requires a lot of maintenance. Lucas drove home on autopilot. He did not cry. He did not scream. He felt a strange lightness. The relief of a problem identified. And a solution selected. When he entered the house, the smell of garlic and roasting rosemary filled the air. Sophie was in the kitchen. Wearing an apron. Humming a tune. She looked the picture of the perfect wife. She turned as he entered, a smile plastered on her face. Hey. How was work? Dinner is almost ready. Lucas did not reply. He walked to the dining table. He took his phone out of his pocket. And placed it in the center of the table. Screen facing up. The video was paused on a still frame, Sophie standing on Jared's porch. Checking her makeup. Lucas tapped the screen. The video played. Sophie froze. She held a wooden spoon in midair. Her eyes darted to the phone. The color drained from her face. It didn't happen gradually, it was instant. How was the swimming lesson? Sophie? Lucas asked. His voice was low. Smooth. And terrifyingly calm. Jared sends his regards. We had a very illuminating conversation about an hour ago. The spoon clattered to the floor. Sophie grabbed the edge of the granite countertop to steady herself. Lucas. She gasped, her voice failing. It's not. Do not, Lucas cut her off. He raised a hand. Do not insult my intelligence by denying it, I have the logs. 6 months. Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. The key. The showers. The lies. Sophie began to cry. It wasn't a dignified weeping, it was ugly, heaving sobs. She slid down the cabinets until she was sitting on the floor. I didn't want to hurt you, she wailed. Lucas watched her. He felt like he was watching a stranger. You didn't want to hurt me? Lucas repeated. No. You didn't want to lose the safety net. While you tested the waters with him. You are a coward, Sophie. I love him, she whispered through her tears. I know, Lucas said. He told me. He also told me you think I am boring. Predictable. He walked over to the counter, picked up an apple, and inspected it. You are right. I am predictable. Which is why you should have predicted that I would find out. I notice things, Sophie. I notice dry swimsuits. I notice mileage on cars. I notice when my wife becomes a different person. He put the apple down. I am moving into the guest room tonight. Tomorrow. I will contact a lawyer. We will list the house. We will divide the assets. You will be free to go to the coast with Jared. Or whatever fantasy you two have cooked up. Sophie looked up, her eyes red and swollen. Lucas, please. Can we talk? We just did, Lucas said. The conversation is over. The contract is void. He walked out of the kitchen, leaving her sobbing on the floor of the beautiful home she had just destroyed. He went upstairs, packed a bag, and felt absolutely nothing but a cold, clean silence. The divorce took 8 weeks. It was a surgical procedure. Lucas discovered during the proceedings that Sophie had transferred small amounts of money from their joint account to a private one for months. A running away fund. It was pathetic in its size. He moved into a sleek apartment in the city center. It was cold, efficient, and perfect. 6 months after the papers were signed, Lucas went to a supermarket near his office to buy groceries. He was in the pasta aisle. When he saw them, Sophie was pushing a cart. She looked thinner. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun. She wore a faded sweatshirt. The spark he had seen in the kitchen that day she announced the swimming lessons was gone. replaced by a dull, anxious shadow. Jared was walking beside her. He was on his phone, talking loudly, gesturing with his free hand. He looked annoyed. "I told you to grab the other brand, Sophie, it's cheaper," Jared snapped, not even looking at her. "God, do I have to do everything?" Sophie flinched. She mumbled an apology and reached for a generic box of spaghetti. Then, she looked up and saw Lucas. He was standing at the end of the aisle, wearing a tailored charcoal suit. He looked healthy, rested, and sharp. Their eyes locked. Lucas saw the shame flood her face. He saw the regret. He saw her look at Jared, who was still ignoring her, and then back at Lucas. She opened her mouth slightly. Perhaps to say hello. Perhaps to beg for forgiveness. Lucas did not smile. He did not frown. He simply nodded. A curt, professional acknowledgement of a former associate. He turned his cart and walked away. As he checked out, he glanced through the glass front of the store. He saw them in the parking lot. Sophie was struggling to load heavy bags into the trunk of an old, dented sedan. Jared was sitting in the driver's seat, checking his reflection in the mirror, waiting for her to finish. Lucas felt a ghost of an emotion. Was it pity? No. Pity implied emotional investment. It was validation. His analysis had been correct. The variable, Jared, was unstable. The outcome, misery, was inevitable. Sophie had traded a boring, safe reality for a chaotic, degrading fantasy. She had made a bad investment. Lucas walked to his car. A new German model. He started the engine. The leather was cool under his hands. The engine purred with precision. He drove out of the parking lot, merging seamlessly into traffic. He turned up the radio. The sun was setting, painting the sky in logical gradients of orange and purple. He was alone. He was divorced. He was scarred. But as he accelerated onto the highway, leaving the wreckage of his past in the rearview mirror, Lucas told himself the only truth that mattered to him now. The system is secure. The breach has been contained. Proceed.